Hey guys, this is Eckart's Hello and welcome to another Star Wars Legends lore video. Today's content will be a little bit different than normal. Instead of scripting out a video, I'm just going to talk about starships. One thing first though, I'd like to give a big thank you to everyone who's sponsored the channel on YouTube. You can do so for I think it's $4.99, and right now we have 30 sponsors, which is great. If one of those people is you, I've recently put up a sponsor only post, make sure you guys check it out. I've also updated the sponsor badges, which means the longer you support the channel, the more advanced your badge gets. For the first month you just have the Eckart's Ladder logo, then subsequently you get Radis, Trench, Pelion, Akbar, and finally Thrawn. So if you see someone in the comments with a badge, say thank you for supporting the channel, and I know I will too. Anyway, today we're looking at the Supremacy, the First Order's Mega Star Destroyer. There's something very clearly different about this ship when compared to literally any Dreadnought in Star Wars history, with perhaps the exception of Yuuzhan Vong vessels. It's wing-shaped rather than wedge-shaped, and that makes it not only different from every Super Star Destroyer ever, but really different than 99% of ships in Star Wars. And this is really important for one reason. I thought of this when looking at the fairly famous picture of the Battle of Orinda from the Essential Guide to Warfare. In that we see two Dreadnoughts, I think it's the Reaper and the Lucentia, firing all of their weapons basically at each other in massive broadsides. And these broadside attacks are really where a Super Star Destroyer shines. Because of weapon placements, ships are unable to fire all of their batteries on a single target in front of them. This is especially true if the target is in a weird position, like 45 degrees off center or further away. This is less true with something like a Star Destroyer, which has fewer batteries, but even on that ship, some of the big octuple turbo lasers will not be effective against ships right in front of it. Moving back to broadsides, this is why they're sort of seen as the ultimate display of Star Destroyer firepower. You've got all of these batteries which can easily shoot at a target without anything in its way. I say all of the batteries, but there are obvious limitations to this. Only the batteries on a given side can be used to fight. The other ones either take another target or just sit there uselessly. The Mega Star Destroyer is almost the exact opposite of this. All of its weapons are on the front side of the ship. As it approaches, its giant wingspan can put all weapons on a single target. We see that it makes use of heavier long-range turbo lasers, but also thousands, if not tens of thousands, of smaller batteries. Unlike with the SSD, the worst and most dangerous spot to be when facing the Mega Star Destroyer is right in front of it. What are the implications of this? Well, first off, it means that the ship does not have to reposition itself in a weird direction when facing off an enemy head-on. It also means that when coming out of hyperspace, it's ready to engage any enemy, and if you're in front of this thing, or if your fleet's in front of this thing, I don't really think there's much you can do. It sort of allows the First Order to dictate any traditional head-to-head battle with this real bulldozer of a ship. But is this non-traditional design a good thing? I'm really not sure, and I think I'm leaning towards no. I mean, obviously a ship of this size would rely on some sort of support fleet. However, any support fleet here would be heavily tested and really pushed to the edge. The Mega Star Destroyer couldn't be described any way other than lumbering. There's no way that this 60-kilometer wide ship is moving at anything other than slow. And from what I could tell, at least, the aft portion of the ship, as well as the two sides, have literally no weapon placements. As an aside, that sort of actually explains why the First Order left all of their Star Destroyers around the Dreadnought. Something like the Radis, which is fast and pretty heavily shielded, could have perhaps maneuvered into one of the Dreadnought's many blind spots. Of course, you can do the same thing with a Super Star Destroyer, but the engine area on that ship is relatively small compared to the area which actually has protective weaponry. On the other hand, with the Supremacy, you've got about half of the ship which is covered by weapons, then that whole back half with nothing on it. There's also, of course, at least in the case of the Super Star Destroyer, a lack of weapons on the ventral side, but despite being in space, realistically Star Wars combat almost always happens in 2 dimensions. So with the Mega Star Destroyer, I guess that leaves us with a ship that's almost perfectly designed to head-on assault some sort of fleet. It can bring all of its weapons immediately to bear on a single target right in front of it, or it can spread them out and probably take down an entire fleet on its own. The problem is that perhaps even more so than the Executor, it's got so many weak spots that it needs a strong and flexible support fleet. I mean, that's fine for the First Order because the Resurgence battlecruiser is a hell of a ship, but it's just interesting. Now, it is possible that the Mega Star Destroyer does have weapons near the engines or at least facing backwards, but none are shown on the ship's cross-section. I will say, I do like that the Supremacy has not only a lot of weapons, but also individual extremely high power turbo lasers which operate effectively at long range. I think that's pretty cool. Also, if it is built for this sort of head-on assault, that means the Supremacy can also load more of its deflector shields up front, allowing it to take more head-on damage. But I'm really not sure where I fall on this ship. Whether a traditional wedge-shaped Super Star Destroyer is better. I mean, Star Wars ship design generally, if looked at practically, could use a lot of work, but in universe, I think the differences are interesting. I'd love to hear what you think. Let me know down in the comment section, and of course, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Until next time guys, this has been Eckhart's Ladder. May the Force be with you.